Let's do it. Run the kit. That is so awesome.
Oh, yeah.
God.
It's all coming together.
Fighting alongside with the dragon.
So
Yeah.
many things happen. Yeah, right. The dragon's presence is incredible. All right, so many things happen there. Let's start to break it down. Just starting with the basic attack. Let's start right at the beginning.
Yeah, so the basic attacks are pretty normal. He's actually manifesting his Dow into these like fiery, magical projectiles that he's shooting out. So there's not a whole lot going on with those that is especially special until we start getting into the passive, and that's where things get interesting.
Well, then let's get into the passive. Let's not keep him waiting.
All right, so as you can see there, right above his character portrait, he does have this passive meter, and so you can see that it's lighting up a little bit. We'll get into the specifics of what it does, but you can see that jade segment popped off on the side there. That's how you know your passive is ready to go. So Yu Huang's passive is called Master of the Dow, and so how that works is you've got 12 segments in this passive meter.
Yeah.
Once you hit 6 segments, which you can gain and lose Dow by doing various things, your abilities and basic attacks become attuned. He becomes attuned to the Dow. So there's a lot of different effects that you'll see throughout the kit that change whether or not you are attuned. And the first one of those effects has to do with his basic attacks. So if you are ever over 6 Dow, your basic attacks will chain once to the nearest enemy. And they do reduce damage to that second
That's so
enemy.
awesome.
But it's pretty good for lane clear, pretty good for jungle clear. It's just a nice little spicy thing to add to his basic attacks. And this happens whenever you're over 6 Dow. And it does not cost any Dow to use these auto attacks.
It's awesome that it works on both like enemy players, but also on the jungle camps, on the lane minions. That's awesome.
Yeah, so to go into a little bit more how you actually gain this Dow,
Do
there
it.
are 2 ways to gain it through your passive and then a couple of other ways throughout his kit. But the first way is you just get one every 15 seconds. So every 15 seconds you will see that he will get 1 more Dow. The second way is if you take a look at the passive meter, there's a nice big jade emblem in the middle. You can see it's glowing right now.
Yeah.
But if you hit someone or you are hit, it goes off. You only get 1 Dow though if you hit someone from out of combat. So if you're not fighting anyone for 3 seconds, you haven't hit or been hit within 3 seconds, you will get 1 more Dow.
Okay. Cool. So it's kind of a resource management, kind of something you have to watch out for and pay attention to. And I'm sure that'll affect other abilities. So let's get right into them with ability 1, Flames of the Phoenix.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting take on a poke tool. This is a brand new shape. Never seen this shape before.
Ooh.
It's got an X and a circle. So you can see here with this targeter, the first thing that's going to happen is where all those arrows are on that X, you're going to have cinders spawn there. And those are going to be pretty nice pillars of flame. They're going to all collide together in the center. And when that happens, there's a big explosion and then a field of fire right in that center circle area.
And the symbol of the phoenix.
And the Phoenix, I was about to say, pops up right in the center.
Yeah, so that actually lets you know when the ability is attuned. So if you were to ever
Really?
get above 6 Dow, when you fire it, an enemy will know that it has been attuned when you see that Phoenix. So normally, no Phoenix attuned, there is a Phoenix in there.
Got it.
To kind of talk a little bit more about how the damage is broken down on this one, if you get hit by the projectile of the cinders coming to the center, that's a little bit of damage. There's an explosion coming from when all of them collide. And then there's a burn coming from that field of flames.
And if you're attuned, you'll also have your magical protections reduced.
Yes, so if you step into that explosion, the explosion damage is what is actually doing the protection reduction. If you are just in the burn and you don't get hit by that initial explosion, your protections are just the same.
Got it, yeah, and it consumes your Dow to hit them with. That's awesome.
Yes, so every ability that does take Dow takes 6 Dow. So you'll always know that you can do at least 2 abilities if you're at full. There are, again, still more ways to get back Dow. So if you happen to be weaving in basic attacks, staying in and out of combat, and doing those kind of actions, you can get to, 3 abilities enhanced during a fight. It just really depends on the player that's going to be doing it and how well they've mastered attuning to the Dow.
I love when the theme of the actual god plays in the kit so much, and that'll be really cool to see both in those really heated team fights where you're just gonna have to choose what 2 abilities do I want to use my Dow on, but also and the poke game, because you can really be concise about when you throw your auto attacks and you use that Dow to play into maybe poking your opponent out of lane. That's really cool.
If you pace yourself, take your time, reset, build that Dow back up before the next fight, you're going to be a lot more effective than if you just come in there and attack.
Yeah. So really, I mean, again, have to exercise that patience, that emperor-like patience.
Well, ability 2 is going to make you also want to be patient if you're going to want to get its full effects.
Well, let's get into ability 2, Dow Cultivation.
So in this one, this is really the biggest point where you can gain the most Dow at once. So Dow Cultivation is basically a charging ability, and the longer that you stay in it, the more Dow that you get up to a cap. So you can see there the target is grayed out, and once it gets colored in, that's when you've gotten your first Dow. But there's a lot of nice visual and audio sound effects that are going to be coming in to let you know when you've gained your cap of 6 Dow per ability cast. You can see actually in his passive meter that the slots start filling up red.
Yeah.
So that starts showing you how much Dow you will gain when you fire it. You cannot get any Dow unless you fire it. So for instance, if you were to get canceled out of this, you wouldn't lose the cooldown, you wouldn't lose the mana, you would just need to charge up again to get the full amount of Dow. But you can fire it early. You don't have to sit there and wait for the Dow to gain all the way up to 6. You can fire it early. There is a slight bit of reduced damage if you fire it too early though, so you want to make sure you're holding on to it for just the right amount of time before sending it off.
Yeah.
If you fire it before 1 second, you're going to get the reduction. If you wait the full 3 seconds, that's when you get all the Dow. Or you can just keep it charged and just kind of hold it for the right time.
Exactly.
And then this ability is going to do damage in the center narrow projectile area. Then the projectile itself, its wake of energy explodes out, causing a second effective damage in a wider area and rooting the gods in the area. So this is also what his primary CC ability.
Yes, he's got a slow on the center rectangle, and on the outside is a root. So really the slow is just there to help you guarantee the root. If you hit that really thin skill shot, you will almost certainly guarantee the root unless they're on the very edge of the outer rectangle.
Yeah. And again, I love Jade as a look, it's just so pleasing to me personally, and the amount of it that's worked into these abilities. I mean, the green in that like center projectile before it erupts is just so pleasing to look at. That is such an aesthetic ability. Like all utility and amazing usage aside, I just looking at it, somebody will hit me and they'll go like, "Ow, that hurt," but it was also really nice. I don't know. So.
The next ability, which we kind of foreshadow as a unique a movement ability, is very different. It has a very different feel, very different look. It handles very differently than pretty much anything we've done in Smite before.
Yeah, and it's definitely one that stands out from the others. That's ability 3, Celestial Flight. So let's see some Celestial Flight.
Yes, so in this ability, Yu Huang's actually going to be calling down, I guess calling up the Pearl Dragon from beneath him.
Yeah.
And this use of the Pearl Dragon is actually really interesting as it ties into his lore, because there's a very popular story about the 4 dragons of the rivers in Chinese mythos and how they came to be. So this is like that origin story kind of mixed in here. So the Pearl Dragon was really the first dragon to call upon the Emperor when the people were thirsty, in need of water. There was a big drought. And so the Pearl Dragon went to the Jade Emperor and said, "Hey, you know, we need water for the people." And the Jade Emperor said, "Okay, well, I can get to that soon. I have a lot of other imperial duties that I have to get to." But eventually the dragons just went and did it themselves, and Yu Huang was not too pleased with them going over his imperial authority. So to punish them, he basically changed the 4 dragons into the 4 major Chinese rivers.
Huh. That's really cool.
Yeah,
Well,
so the one that we
follows
have
the
featured in the
dragon.
game is the Pearl Dragon of the Pearl River.
Yeah.
And yeah, look at that. I mean, the Pearl Dragon coming out of the ground, lifting him straight on up and coming on down as well. So what you're seeing here is the attuned effect of this ability, where the Pearl Dragon actually comes back down with you and kind of swoops around there on the ground and knocks people away.
What this is actually a slow-moving self-banish and untarget ability. So it's kind of like a juke more than a leap. You get a relatively long window of untargetability and CC immunity, but you don't really gain that much extra distance or speed.
Yeah.
You cannot use this to go over walls either, but you can use it to escape player-made walls.
Yes.
And then upon landing, he's going to deal bonus damage, just damage in that circle, and with the attuned effect, you're going to get damage and a knockup.
You can see that knockup right
Ooh,
there.
yeah.
And another small piece of control that's actually super cool about this ability is if you're up in the air, you're actually able to refire it by pressing the button again or by left clicking to go down faster. So you have complete control of how much time you spend in the air, whether that's the max amount, whether that's the minimum amount, or somewhere in between. Whenever you need to get back down, you're going to be able to.
Yeah, that's awesome for both control and, you know, if you're using this offensively or defensively, right? 'Cause if you're trying to, you know, use some Dow, get that knock up, then you can really just rain down on your enemies. But if you're like, all right, I got to get out of here, Odin just put up a wall, you can just kind of glide right over and enjoy the max duration of that immunity. That's really, really cool to see. And just, that, again, very aesthetically pleasing. That dragon animation is so clean and such a powerful piece of imagery that, I don't know, it's just, like you said, a very unique ability.
Yeah, definitely a little bit less of a movement ability and more of an outplay
Yeah.
safety ability like you'd see out of like Chang'e 2 or Robin 2. It's definitely going to be used in that way.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see how it's used because, again, just such a powerful ability even just to look at. So that moves us, of course, to the ult, which I'm super excited about us getting a closer look at. This ult is called Dueling Dragons.
And that they do. When you use this ultimate ability, Yu Huang summons the Pearl Dragon once more, but he also creates a dragon out of his own Dow. So you'll see here how there's two different dragons showing up. The one that's next to him is made out of this beautiful jade energy. It's shiny, it's sparkling, it's gorgeous. The art team absolutely knocked it out of the park with this thing. I am so impressed with how that visually looks. But yeah, you got your two dragon buddies, and you basically have a hinged line targeter. So how this works is the faraway dragon from you, the Pearl Dragon, doesn't actually move, but what you can do is you can aim the line in different directions, and yeah, just, I mean, look at that.
That's amazing.
That's so sick. He's scary, but he's also cool.
the, like,
Power stance.
Yeah, right. The sparkling effect is incredible too. Just
I mean,
that shimmering.
The profile of the dragons too, like that is just awesome. And you can see here they're gonna crash together, and then a big explosion at the end.
Oh, that's cool. They kind of like fade as they finish their fight. That's awesome. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so if you're hit with this ability on either line, you will get pushed to the center, wherever that center may be. So you'll see there that circle is where they'll end up. And that circle's not always there. So if you are spread apart or you pull the lines too far apart, they do have a max distance that each of them go, but you start pretty well within it. So if you want that extra explosion damage, you can have it, but you're not stuck to that like straight line that you had. You can always turn around, move around, do whatever you need to do, and make one really long line of push if you absolutely wanted to.
That's really awesome.
So you can push people toward him and push away from him with this. And you know, we've always wanted to experiment with an ability that spawns something further away that comes back to you.
Yeah.
We've never really done that before. So here you can get this ultimate. You get a lot of either long range poke or potentially even some control. You could kind of pluck someone out of the opposing lineup if you hit it well. You can also use it to peel for yourself. So if someone's right up on your face and you need to get some space, you can use them to push them away. They're going to take that extra explode damage as well. And it's like, can also kind of function as just a ranged skill shot where you have some very interesting angles on it that you don't normally get on a mage.
Yeah, as for showing up here, one of the ways that a lot of playtesters have been using it is to push their opponent out of their tower. So if you're hiding into the tower against Yu Huang, you better be ready for this one.
Right, awesome. You aren't safe there. You do have a significant amount of time where the dragon will spawn before it can fire, so if you go ahead and move perpendicularly to him to try to evade it, you can certainly do that. There's a lot of reactivity time. But we give Jade Emperor a little bit of time here where he can choose where he's aiming it, but it will force him to refire. You cannot cancel this.
Yeah.
Once you enter the state, you're gonna shoot it. So it's just up to you to make that count in the time you have before the ability completes the ability.
Yeah, so the one last thing to talk about with this ability is what happens when it's attuned. So when Yu Huang is attuned and uses Dueling Dragons, he gets to have a wider projectile. So the path of the dragons take is wider, and pretty significantly so.
Yeah.
So if you would like to push more people, hit more people with this, then by all means make sure you're attuned before you use it, and get to fighting.
So the attunement from the passive can affect the basic attacks, the 1, the 3, and the 4, and the 2 is also attuned.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you consume it upon firing this as well. Everything gets consumed and has to be regained from its other generation.
Yeah, it's all part of the cycle, and like you said, 3 ways to gain it, 3 ways to use it.
That's incredible too. Just to see that utility throughout the entire kit, it gives you so much to work with, so many different ways you can handle using Dow for attuning your abilities. I'm excited to see this in team fights because you know, pluck a backliner with this, or shoot, you could even just throw it out there and push a tank off to the side. You know, you have a clear shot at their damage. It's just so many different ways you can use this that it's going to be incredible to see this. And I love seeing the community take somebody with as many options available to them as this new god here, as Yu Huang, and make up new plays. And you know, I think we're going to see a lot of that with this. Oh, that's incredible.
I'm just so excited to see what people can do with this god. This has been a really awesome experience for me, having the ability to design such an awesome god for it to be my first one. Like, I can't even express like how insane this turned out. Like, the art team nailed it, the programming team nailed it, the tech art team. I mean, I could name countless people that helped with this process to make Yu Huang come out as smoothly and as awesome as he did, to be frank. I mean, this guy is just sick. I will be playing him a lot when he comes out.
It's a really magical moment to see your first god design come to life. I mean, so magical that some people even wear